And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Thursday morning's flying weather graphic showing area of IFR over the interior here, and another band right along the Yukon Delta coast from St. Lawrence Island on back down across the Pribilofs, and a bigger area of IFR out over the Aleutians and VFR, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, Seward Peninsula, all the way down into Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, up into the Kenai Peninsula, and southeast coast, VFR. For the afternoon, good VFR for the Panhandle, southern Alaska here, and up to the north there, all the way up to Kotzebue now as the marginal VFR retreats back to the northwest. Pretty good area of IFR though over the Kobuk-Koyukuk Valley, across the central eastern Brooks Range on into the north slope, with another band of IFR out here from the western Seward Peninsula right on down, linking up with this next storm, pushing a pretty good zone of IFR and across the eastern Aleutians of the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow afternoon, back into the central Aleutians, and we'll see for Friday morning that area advances northeastward right into the Bristol Bay area, Kodiak Island, and along the southwest coastal areas, and still back up to the north there, right over St. Lawrence Island, Pribilofs, IFR, Aleutians, marginal VFR, and some pretty widespread VFR over the interior with this area IFR holding over the eastern Arctic coast and north slope. And then for the Friday afternoon time frame, we're looking at continued VFR flying conditions for the Panhandle, and that area of moisture now pushes into the Gulf of Alaska, spreading IFR into Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, up into the Talkeetnas, and a big area IFR here over the southwest interior from the Alaska Range or Western Cook Inlet all the way out to the southwest coast. Better conditions up to the north, still looking at some IFR holding up over the eastern Arctic coast. Bering Sea, marginal VFR, Aleutians from Nikolsky to Kiska Island, marginal VFR, but VFR here for the Alaska Peninsula and hopefully on Alaska Island. Passes for the Brooks Range, Anatooka-Ganatigan, occasional IFR for both passes for the day Thursday, and Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR. Pretty good conditions for the Western Alaska Range, rainy, also VFR in the forecast with windy, marginal VFR, Isabel, marginal VFR, and Mentasta, occasionally marginal as well. Back to VFR for Tanita, Portage VFR, and Chilkoot and White VFR. And for the freezing levels here, 2,000 feet here covering the southeast coast with 4,000 feet down to the south over the Queen Charlotte Islands. And out to the north at the surface here, north of the Aleutians now, creeping eastward there to about Cold Bay in the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, 2 to 4,000 or 2 to 6,000 foot freezing levels just to the south of Atka Island. And icing, areas of isolated moderate icing here from the Yukon Flats right on up to the eastern Arctic coast. And then this persistent band that's been out there here over the northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, coming down, linking up with this area of moisture coming up with the next system there with some considerable moderate rime icing for the Alaska Peninsula and maybe back out toward the west central Aleutians. And from there, looking at the jet stream, strongest jet here cutting right across the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula, and then diving off to the southeast with some weak high pressure over the Panhandle, weak low pressure over the interior. And for 9,000 feet, this old low finally starting to move a little bit here, taking off to the west a little bit, and then it'll eventually drop southward as this system pulls to the northeast. And with that, we've got pretty strong winds there just south of the eastern Aleutians, up to 75 knots. And then the Alaska Peninsula southwest 35 turns south at 35 for the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. And then 50 knot southerlies in closer to that low center. Pretty light with some high pressure over the interior in the Gulf of Alaska as well as the southeast coast. And for Thursday, same pattern, light winds over the interior, picking up to 35 knots here along the southwest coast. And 55 knot winds for the Alaska Peninsula right out of the south and southeast. Backside of that low northeasterlies at 50 knots. And light for the Panhandle. Turbulence-wise, pretty smooth for the southeast coast. Nothing significant turbulence-wise for the interior. And a little bumpier here for the southwest coastal areas from St. Lawrence Island, but the heaviest turbulence likely will be the Alaska range to Unalaska Island and from Adak out toward Amchitka Island.